Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar on behalf of the entire InstalSoft team about new BIM modules in our latest generation of InstalSystem 5 software. It's 10 a.m., so it's time to start our meeting. My name is Rafał Kowalczyk, and I will have the pleasure of leading an intensive webinar with you on the long-awaited BIM modules in our program for the next hour. Last week, a similar webinar was held in Polish with my participation. I saw that some people from foreign markets were even present. Today, however, we have a dedicated webinar just for you. In the future, we want to conduct and supplement our meetings and tutorials in English. Another will be shown is the calculation of heat load of the building, of course, and heating installations. Of course, I'm not alone today, except that our today's meeting signed up a large number of partners and designers because we are almost 30 watching designers and partners. A whole looks also my colleague Marcin Krzyżanowski, which will now support me, moderated chat and answer for some of your questions. Due to the fact that this is a webinar with your participation, Marcin will choose a few questions from you, and at the end we will take time to answer questions related to the topic of today's meeting. After this short introduction, please check our InstalSoft YouTube channel. All the materials that we have the pleasure to do with you are available on the YouTube platform in the InstalSystem 5 webinar section. It's this one. Today's webinar will also appear on our channel soon, of course, after some time. This year, we will also focus on supplementing and recreating for you meetings and tutorials already conducted in Polish. In Polish, we have about 8-10 webinars. So please follow, of course, our YouTube channel and feel free to subscribe. The next one is our website, so feel free to follow our website where you will find information about future webinars, and through our website it's possible to download a trial version of our programs, which allows you to work in our program for a month. Just download them from the download section and download the full version and choose the option to activate the trial license during activation. We are currently working on a new website, so you should see some news on our website soon. I also invite you to follow our LinkedIn, where we also publish content in English. The next one is help system. The last important aspect of starting work with our program is the extensive use of our InstalSystem 5 online help, which we simply called help system. What is important at the moment and may be useful for you and make enjoy is the list of new products that we have made with the publication number 20, which has been available to you for about 3 weeks. So moving slowly to our meeting plan, the goal is a presentation of a new BIM modules and their impact on the design path in the InstalSystem 5 package. What's the timetable for today's? First of all, we talk about the list of new BIM modules for InstalSystem 5 package with my comments, of course. Then I show you recommended path of using the program for importing and working with Ifc models. Then we create worksheets, stories, levels based on the Ifc architectural model. Then we make the interpretation of selected Ifc elements into InstalSystem 5 building structure elements. Then I show you the how to modify elements of this interpreted building structure, and with margin we have some projects for you. Example project of underfloor heating and water supply installation, how to update the Ifc model, and the last step will be our verification of the correctness of exported installation model in the architectural model in the Ifc file as a BIM coordination process. Projects in building information modeling technology are already true around the world. Many projects from public funds and private are executed in BIM using Ifc formats. And on this format, we focused first on the integration of our software. Analysis has shown that this may be an optimal solution for this moment. Revit, ArchiCAD, Allplan, and much more allows you to export the Ifc. We know that the architect working on this format. Ifc is an open format. When we talk about Revit, there is also a danger that any Revit update that is on every year could break the compatibility. Generally, there is no secret that it will also be an expensive solution for you. At the moment, we are focusing on the Ifc format, of course, with a perspective, but a bit longer on development in the Revit area. What we have prepared for you. First of all, it's worth noting that some prototype solutions in our program have already been introduced. To simplify things, we were able to load basic GBXML and older Ifc files. In the meantime, a new file format Ifc4 appeared, which gives new possibilities and is not compatible one-to-one with the previous format that was introduced by us. It is worth noting that the latest version of the software with which our program will probably work the most, it's probably Revit and ArchiCAD, allow for 4 main options for exporting the architecture file to Ifc and, of course, re-importing these files. It's worth mentioning that sometimes it's lossy on your own importing itself exported files. That's 4 exporting ways are coordination view and coordination view 2.0 is the older version of the Ifc 2x3, and the next 2 exporting ways from Revit and ArchiCAD are Ifc4, it's the design transfer view and reference view. So we have started extensive work resulting in 4 modules, 2 imports and 2 exports of plan for next expansion, which is currently going on, and it will be for you soon. The first module is the Ifc Import Basis. It's a new module that allows you to import a building model, including installation and equipment from Ifc files. The next module is the Ifc Building Data Interpretation, a new module that allows the interpretation of structural elements from the Ifc file into InstalSystem 5 structural partitions. So that's the next module. And the next two about the export is the Ifc heating cooling system export. And the last one is the Ifc tap water system, tap water systems. So that's last two new modules allow you to export the Ifc4 file about heating and water installations design in InstalSystem 5. As you can see, we managed to do quite a lot within one publication and make it available for you. At this point, we are intensifying our work on BIM, which result is this 4 new modules. Of course, this is not the end because we are currently developing in the area of path of import and export of Ifc space rooms along with export data from our thermal calculations. We are working about the export of building structure made in InstalSystem 5. For today's webinar, I prepared some prototype solution for you how to export a building structure. During the development of the sewage system module, the export of this installation is also prepared, and the next plans are wider parameterization of the installation with further calculation data and catalogs information. We also developed the tools and improvements supporting work like interface for Ifc space elements, interface for export and structures and installations, and functions improving ergonomics and cooperation with other in BIM process. And this scope should be available in the next or two next publication. Okay, we are starting work in our program. As part of today's meeting, I have prepared a few projects for you, a few scenarios that you may meet. We will work based on this 4 projects. First is this one. This is a simple office building in Ifc format. That's the first one. The next one is sample from Revit. Maybe someone know this project. When you open for the first time Revit software, you can find this project. We will also work on this file for today. The next one is this one. So it's a simple house. It's the simply 2 stories house with a sloped roof, and the last one is that one. It's the example of Villa Tugendhat from the Czech Republic. Maybe some of us know this project. The scope for today's meeting covers many areas of our software, so here some knowledge of our software is already necessary. In addition to the presentation of modules and path of import and export Ifc files, we will also cover tools related to creating a building structure, calculation the heat load of a building, designing both loops and water installation in the basic scope. Remember that we can do it all in one program thanks to the integration of all modules, windows and tools in one editor in our new software generation. We will start from the recommended path. So maybe I open the new project. A recommended path to use the program for importing and working with Ifc models with a discussion of individual tools. Our new modules allow you to import a building model, including installation and equipment from Ifc files, both the older and the newer Ifc 4 version. Import is available for you under this button. So just click on them. and choose your IFC file. That's the first one, and just click open. We have possibility to open the IFC files or IFC zip files. So I click open, and information import of IFC files is performed as an independent model available in the underlay edition. Maybe I change to the 3D view. That's our model from the IFC in InstalSystem 5. Loading the Ifc model can be performed for any project, new or with the existing building structure or installation, including full delete and replacement of the existing model. So you can re-import this model if you need. We can load many independent models into our project at the same time. When you have, for example, the same project, but with the installation, just click on the next model and click open. This means that if we work with many industry professionals, there may be several such files in our project, and we can easily coordinate. When I unpin project browser and change the scope to the underlay, as you can see, that's my first model. It's the architecture one, and that's the second one of the ventilation systems. We have possibility of precise model management, including preview of the full structure of the IFC file, preview of the properties of each element, hiding and searching for elements using the project browser window. So I can unhide, for example, all the stories from these IFC files, and if I want to see only IFC space, I can uncheck this one and look at this. Click on the IFC space, and the last one is the IFC space. So now I have two models. First is the architecture one with the IFC spaces, okay, and the next one is the ventilation system. Remember that if you have much more project, for example, a heating installation, you can open this model. Please wait, and you can see this one on your 3D view. Yes, and at this point, there has been a great rebuild. So as you can see, we can preview in a very precise way the entire structure of the IFC files and expand the structure into individual branches. This is a great help. Using this button, you can expand the detailed view of a given IFC model. So as you can see, we can load IFC models containing both our architecture and installation, designed and exported previously from the InstalSystem 5 program and from other programs. This means that we can hide, show to the smallest elements or given groups with the help of those things we want to see in our program, which has an impact on our design installations. All of this is also associated with data table. So there you can find information displayed about each of the items in the IFC files. For example, I can click on this one. It's the duct segment. As you can see, we have information, we have this element in a project browser. Yeah, you can click by the right button, find in active windows, of course. So this is this element, and here you have information in data table. If you want, you can unvisible this element, so it's working in a project browser, 3D view, and data table elements. The whole is additionally supported by the search window, in which we have prepared some predefined elements. Maybe I unhide this project browser and unhide the search window, and as you can see, we have the search of the underlay scope, and here we prepared some predefined IFC elements. So if you want, you can choose select in rectangle, for example, or select all. You can unhide or elements from the IFC file if you want. What's the important information? It's the new one, because the model is visible both in the 2D and 3D editor. 2D editor is drawing as edges, and 3D view it's the real model. Of course, the whole thing is interdependent. So in the case of many windows or even monitors, one marked elements or a group of objects is marked among themselves in all active windows. These elements are also marked, and with each hint appears with the information about what the element is. What's important, the next one, maybe I go to the project browser and I hide some elements. Of course, we can delete the models if we want. And the next one. Okay. What's important for us, stop mode of construction elements and installation drawn on a 2D in InstalSystem 5 to IFC object. So thanks to this, we have the possibility to design our installations based on a real view of a given story, including possible installation from another IFC model to avoid collision. And the last information is that we can also perform export of IFC models to DXF, W, DWG, and PDF formats, except from the fact that we can export installation to IFC, we can still make 2D prints or model prints from our 3D view as before, including IFC files. So what's important for us, maybe I take you some words about what's the user path from the user point of view. So first of all, when you have the IFC file, having an IFC file, the user loads the IFC file. You can find toolbar button in our program on the 2D view or 3D view underlay on the underlay range. The area is visible in the 2D and 3D editor, and a matter of settings, the visibility is the project browser window. So if you want to unvisible some of the elements, you can just click, and that's working in this way. At this stage, the file is visible only on the underlay area and is not interpreted into InstalSoft object. And the last thing it's important for us is that the program allows you to load many IFC models into our program. For example, it could be an architecture model and a ventilation or heating model, etc. And this is, in short, the whole information about the first Ifc base import model. However, we have prepared and rebuilt a new model which complements the model that I have presented to you. It's an interpretation building data of the Ifc files. A new model that allows the interpretation of structural objects from the Ifc file into InstalSystem 5 structural partition for further use, among others, for building thermal calculations. What's important is the first point, because we prepared independent tools for the various controls on the toolbar field of construction, which in this respect will be able to interpretation on stories into ways. So maybe I open the same project. Now I have one model, and so we can make interpretation of stories in two ways. First, we can create stories based on stories from the Ifc files. So if in general the stories with their logic, they are the same with the stories in InstalSystem 5, so they go one above the other with the appropriate assignments of elements to the story, and then select the first option. The program will create exactly as many stories as there is in a given model. So just click and wait a moment, and as you can see, we have information that the program create 3 stories have been created. If the roof is an independent stories, it's okay. It may be so often the program can handle it too, and then we recommend using a fully automatic mode. So this is what we do on this project. The program will create the appropriate number of stories based on the Ifc stories. So after creating levels, I have a preview of them in the manage of stories in the list of sheets, and you can check the general data on stories management window, and as you can see, we have exactly the same stories in InstalSystem 5 like in Ifc file. Maybe I open the 2D editing, because we introduced some more about this, because when you click on the Ifc model from the project browser, we help to setting of the visibility of the Ifc model in a 2D projection. I can select, as you can see, this is this field. I can select a given model in a project browser and use this checkbox in a 2D view only elements from a stories range. Here you can find a description of this function. This is a great function because Because I do not have to change the visibility after switching over after this interpretation of the story. However, we leave this choice to user because there may be such a situation that we will still want to see whole model, for example, elements of the story located below or above for design purposes. However, maybe I open the next project, the new one. Okay, the new one, because when we have the, however, if the stories do not comply with the logic presented in stories management in general data, for example, the architectural model as a building contains 3 stories, but there are parking, trees, infrastructure, some other things around, defined in such a way that they are on separate stories. Simply saying, we have a situation that suddenly in our model there are, instead of 3, you made 10 stories overlapping with each other. Then I suggest using the second method. So please give me a moment. I open the new project, okay, and I import the Ifc model. That's my folder. Okay, and I show you how to work with the next function. I open this one. So how to work with them? So now let me open our model for the first time, on which we will make a full interpretation, and as part of this project I will show you the thermal calculation and the design installations, including their export and simulated change that may come during the project from the architect. I changed to the 2D editing, and that's my project. It's a simple house. The path is very simple about the second tool. We use this function to create stories after selection of horizontal structural partition. For example, it could be slabs or roofs from the Ifc file. First of all, I want to say that the path is very simple. Maybe I check the wall from the 3D view, unvisible this one and the second one. Okay, maybe I use the project browser or maybe the search window for my purposes. Okay, and in the case of 3 floors, we have to mark 3 slabs and limitation in the form of 4 slabs or roof in advance. So selecting 4 elements will create 3 floors. So I start from the first slab, okay, the second slab with Control key, the last slab, and what's important, I need to select the 4th element. It's the roof. Okay, maybe I click on this cube, and as you can see, the first slab, the second one, the 3rd, and the 4th. Okay. Then you click on this function, create stories based on slabs. Okay, click on this one. We have message that we want to delete the existing stories. I click on yes. And as you can see, after selecting 4 elements, okay, we have 3 stories have been created. Okay, I click OK. Now I need to go to general data and check the stories management. If we have a sloped roof, we must additionally verify the thickness of the roof for the last story, because in the case of a sloped roof, the program takes the entire range from the highest to the lower edge of the roof and create thickness from it. In the next publication, the program will do it automatically. So just click on the last stories and change the upper slab thickness, for example, to 30 centimeters. So fill this field and click OK. And now I could go to the editing, and for my goal I can change the scope to underlay. Okay, that's my 3D view. Maybe I click on this checkbox. And for my next path for the 2D editing, because now I see all the things from the Ifc file on the 2D editor, I click on the Ifc model and click in a 2D view only elements from story range. Okay, so now, for example, for the 0, I have only the range from this story. So now I will open a ready project of a sample house from Revit, where I want to show you the last example. I'm looking for it. Yes, this is my project. Maybe I go to open and looking for this. It's the first one. Okay, Revit house loop. Okay. Okay, and I switch to the 3D view and go to maybe invisible when this active. Okay. Okay, perfect. So that's the last project about how to create the stories based on Ifc files. Because if we count the installation based on the coefficient and we have the stories shifts between each other, which in our program we call series of stories, is then when we use the second use of this function and select the selection of no from the dialog box, program create a separate series of stories which can symbolize differences in levels. In this project you can find this situation. As you can see, we have one series of stories. Okay, is the first part of the building. I create the simply installation based on this Ifc model from the Revit, and that's the second series of stories. As you can see, we have a such situation that we have shifted levels. When we go to the general data and stories management, as you can see, that's the first series of stories. Okay, and that's the second one. So we create them by using the second for the next one, the this option and click on no. So the program, by using the second one, this function creates the next series of stories. So it's working in this way. So it's very simple. This project is based on the coefficient, but of course, if you want, you can make the full interpretation in InstalSystem 5 based on a new modules in our new generation. Maybe I come back to my project because I switch to the 3D view, because the next step is the interpretation of building model to the elements of InstalSystem 5 construction. So then user can converting construction to logical partitions. I will show you this interpretation on one model, which is quite easy. Another advanced was shown as part of our webinar in Polish. So in order to not duplicate the entire path, I invite you to see this fragment. I think you should be able to handle it. I have already prepared three ready model, which we would probably not have had time to do today. So I will only show you for calculation of the thermal load calculation. What's important for us? When we have the model, and then when we have the right number of levels based on the Ifc model, we can make an interpretation of the selected elements of the Ifc structure. The elements, like, maybe I open the search window, because we can make interpretation of such elements like Ifc beam, Ifc building element proxy, Ifc column, Ifc curtain wall, Ifc door, footing, opening element, roof, slab, Ifc wall and window, to structural elements in InstalSystem 5, like a wall along with element opening in the wall, the window, door, roof or slab with hole in the slab element, and we can use it to make the heat load calculation for thermal calculation of the building. For this operation, we use mainly this separate and independent 4 buttons on toolbar. The first one, create walls based on selected items from the Ifc file. That's the first button. The next button is create windows, doors and openings based on selected items from the Ifc file. The next one is create roofs. And the last one is create slabs based on selected items from the Ifc file. We use a search window in a basic area by clicking the scope of underlay. Of course, remember that this function, this for function, make interpretation based on selected items. So we can use search window, okay, or we can use the browser, project browser. If we select items from the project browser, then click on this element, program creates structural elements from the Ifc file on the construction scope. So how to work with the project browser window, how to make the interpretation based on a project browser, I showed in the Polish language webinar in an advanced aspect. Important is that the user can influence what elements are interpreted, okay, by search window and Ifc definitions. okay, by Ifc definitions and by the project browser. It's important that the selected elements in project browser, apart from being invisible, is not interpreted. This has a major impact on the management of our project. Why? Because we can hide the entire infrastructure around or interpret floor by floor. This is a simpler project, and we don't have any unnecessary elements on this IFC file. But if you open, for example, this one, I can show you on the next step. If you open this underlay scope, as you can see, for thermal calculation, it's not necessary to make interpretation of Ifc slab like this road. Okay, it's unnecessary. So if you unchecked this element on project browser, or you unchecked the visibility in data table and select all elements, for example, by the search window like Ifc slabs, okay, this element will not make interpretation. Okay, that's important. That's important for us. Maybe I come back to our project. This is this one. What's new in our InstalSystem 5 model, and it's extremely important for us. This is that we can modify elements interpreted into InstalSystem 5 elements, and we can move them, make correction or delete. So maybe first of all, I can show you the path how to make the interpretation of this building. So maybe I use the search window, okay, and first of all, I select all the walls, for example, by select all, and then use the function create walls based on selected items. Okay, this is first function. Then we can select all windows, Ifc windows, by select all, okay, and just click on create windows. Okay, the next element is Ifc Door. Okay, so click on them and select all elements and click again on the same button. Program automatically recognize that this element is a Ifc Door. Okay, so only click on them. Maybe I change the visibility to construction to only one visible when active. Okay, so now we have such a situation. Okay, then the next one is Ifc slab. So maybe I select them, and that's the first one, this next one. Okay, that's interesting because, as you can see, the architecture create this roof and make the name of the Ifc slab. If you want, you can unselect this element, so it's not necessary to create the slab based on this slope roof. So I recommend to uncheck this element and select the next one. Okay, so I click only on the create slabs based on selected items. Okay, so now I have the slabs, and the last one is last two slabs in Ifc. But if you want, you can use the function create roofs. So just click, okay, and then when you change to construction, we have all the construction and partition and partitions. And then after that, I click on the building structure calculation. Okay, and now, as you can see, all the rooms are automatic. So that's all. So that's the real model, Ifc model. Okay, and that's the construction based on this Ifc model. Maybe I change the visibility to the editor and go to 0. Okay. I said before that user can modify elements interpreted into Ifc elements, and we can move them and correct or delete them. And this is example you can see at the very beginning what is not the same with logic in InstalSystem 5. Here is a small detail, but it does not comply with our logic, which is the direct reason for the lack of recognition of automatic rooms. As you can see, we have on the construction only one automatic room. Why? Because when I go to search and click on the building structure and select the walls, maybe by this function, select in rectangle, okay. As you can see, we have shift of the lower edge by 1 centimeters. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why this is in this case, in this project. However, we can easily modify it as a group. So just click and put 0, okay, and make the full calculation, building structure calculation. And as you can see, we have all these elements on all automatic rooms on this level, okay, and I can switch to the 3D view. Remember that elements like wall, room, and others snap to the elements of the Ifc model. So if you have some lack of the, I don't know, maybe the wall, you can easily, maybe I could show you the example. Program snap to the editor, and if you want, you can create your own wall. Okay, as you can see, just click tab and you can make something like this and change the thickness for maybe 20. Okay, so it's working in this way. Remember that elements listed above may exist simultaneously with the selected elements. They are on a separate scope, base, underlay, and construction. So please also remember when you switch to the 3D view that you can use the function like, for example, unvisible when inactive, the only one visible when active. That's the construction. So, for example, I choose this function, the only one visible when active. Okay. This gives us at the moment two user paths, in the future 3, that is interpretation of the room of the rooms themselves as plans for the future. But for today's, I show you the interpretation of the entire structure. That's the full option, because based on it we can make the heat load calculation. And of course, if we don't need to make the interpretation, or we want to only use this Ifc model like an underlay, you can have, or you have ability to manually operate on a model that behaves like a regular underlay. Maybe I open this project. Okay, that's this one. This is the Ifc model. I import Ifc model to InstalSystem 5 package. Okay, and maybe you know this project because it's a Villa Tugendhat. It's the architecturally significant building in Brno, Czech Republic. It's one of the pioneering prototypes of modern architecture in Europe. Is an icon of modernism. Preparing this project took me about maybe 20, maybe 30 minutes to make a thermal model. Now I on the underlay scope. When I change to construction, that's the construction, and that's the heat. And that's the thermal model based on this underlay. If I want, I can check the visibility, visible when inactive, for example, and the same one for this. And as you can see, we have the thermal model based on this underlay. So it's very simple. I think that drawing by hand from underlay could take several hours. So it's a big difference between the 20 minutes for now, then take you several hours. So of course, in theory, you can do it because our model can behave as an underlay, and we can snap our walls to the walls of the model. By maybe I open the heat and energy window because I changed the heat and energy. Maybe I changed the screen arrangement to heat and energy because by loading, I changed the scope to the heat and energy. By loading the ready-made definitions of partitions for this range and performing complete calculation definitions and open. Okay, that's ready-made partition definitions. I click OK. And after make the full calculation of the building structure and thermal calculation of the building, wait a second. For this range, I can perform complete calculations. We can see the result for this building, but before that, I change the visibility maybe to 3D editor. Okay, and as you can see, on this range, we have full model. And when I change to result, I can check the result for this building. It's very interesting. This model have about, as I remember, 1,000 of square meters. It's as you can see, that's our result for this building based on calculation made according to. Remember that you can change the norm of heat load standard on calculation standard and options. Very similar because based on this first office building, I make the same. I make the full interpretation of this building. So based on this building, as you can see, now I have only the IFC space, but of course I can click on on all the stories. Okay, based on this IFC model, I create the construction. Okay, the construction, and maybe I'm visible. Okay, and make the heat load calculation. Okay, and based on it, I create the simple installation with loops. Okay, so it's very simple, but for this moment, I recommend to see our Polish webinar how to convert this model to full building structure. It's quite easy, but for today's purposes, I decide to not showing you the entire path, so I think that you can check our webinar in Polish. And I think that for my part, that's all. That's all for this moment. I hope you can see how much time we can save and how many benefits can work with IFC models. It's quite simple. Okay, so we can move to the next part of our meeting. Maybe I open this one because based on our model, I make the full building structure calculation, and then I make the thermal calculation of the building and make a simple installation after my interpretation. What's important for us? At the time of designing, the user can detect visually collision between the model and the elements of the InstalSystem 5 IFC. Remember, if there is a change to the IFC model, you can replace it, of course, and this replaced model is working with the interpretation tools, but the user can decide that if there is a change and this change is small, you can manually, for example, move the IFC object, for example, a single wall, if it seems it's optimal. So now we, based on this project, maybe talk about some information about our new model. Now we move on the second part, and I will show you how you can now use the modularity of our software in terms of designing the installation and its export on this building from the IFC model. Okay, as you can see, we prepared two modules about export IFC files. So we will now move on the next stage of our path. Before I show you how it's done in our program, it's worth saying a few words about exporting these files to the IFC format. The main purpose of IFC4 as a reference model view is that it's suitable for all BIM workflows based on reference models where the exchange is mainly done in one direction. In this case, the required modification to BIM data, mainly the shape representation and handled by a change request to the original author, and changes are not made to the imported IFC data with the intention of sending it back to the original source. What's the examples of the reference workflow? First, it's the coordination planning. So you can combining different specific IFC models for visual checking. You can make a clash detection. You can find clashes between different specific IFC models. You can use this reference view like a background reference. So you can link this model. You can quantity takeoff for various model elements. You can, for example, make a visual presentation for a broad audience. What's the common characteristic of the workflow using reference model? It's important that the source of the BIM information remains to the designer in InstalSystem 5. The full parametric behavior remains with the designers. The ownership of the model and responsibility is and its correctness remains with the designer, and the receiver of the reference view model has access to the full model content and is not supposed to modify the model, and of course can analyze extract the information of the model. In addition to what is already available to you, I prepared to installation export to installation exported to installation export modules. We have planned to export of the structure of elements such as partition or sub-partition. We have the plan to entire path is based on IFC space, in which the program will also be able to associate the existing IFC space with the architectural model and assign them calculation from our automatic or manual rooms. Or if there is no room in the model of this room, then generating these rooms with the symbol, type, shape, for example, and of course heat load calculation. I have prepared a project for you in which the heating installation is already designed. The water supply system and the thermal load of the building is prepared for you based on our interpreted IFC model. First of all, it's worth noting that our heating installation is using the pipe fits root element, and it's an element that fits very well for the dynamics of change that is present during cooperation with many industries. Today I would like to show you how, thanks to this element, the changes we make in design are cheap and can be the result of changes in the design, for example, by an architect. Before I'm making some changes in this project, the installation itself can be exported using the export button available on the printout scope. So when you change the scope to printout, you have the new button IFC file export. As you can see, we have description, export installations to BIM format like the IFC for reference view. So maybe I show you on 3D how to look this installation. based on this model. So here we have the installation of loops, okay? And here, based on Ifc model, I created the simply water supply installation, okay? When I go to printout, click only on Ifc file export, and now I can, maybe I change to this one, and that's my first model, okay? And we have the option save as type, okay? And then click on save. You need to wait for a moment. Yes, 5%. And in this moment, after this operation, we can preview how the installation looks. At this point, I will open the free BIM Vision program. Okay, I'm looking for this project. Okay, that's the first model. So yes, I open the BIM Vision, and maybe we can check how looks our installation. Okay, so that's our installation is in Ifc4 file in BIM Vision. So that's the place I will I opened this project. Of course, this project can also be opened in another programs that support the Ifc standards. It can be, for example, Revit, ArchiCAD, or for example, the German Plan. It is an open BIM standard, so all the most popular programs can open such a files. Obviously, this project is exported according to the coordinates of the Ifc model. If someone works on, for example, CDE type platforms, he or she can integrate this project with each other. So now let me load the second model in this program, and we will see what it looks like in our program. So I go to, maybe I change the language. Sorry for this Polish. We wait a second. Okay, that's our model from our InstalSystem 5 program. And after that, I can go to Add Files and open my architecture. Okay, and as you can see, this is our model. From based on this, we create the full building structure, heat load calculation, and our installation that after this was exported. And now maybe I unvisible some elements like this one. Okay, and as you can see, that's our installation make in InstalSystem 5, and that's the model from the architecture. Okay, so we can easily make this on other programs, or in, for example, in ArchiCAD or some kind of CDE platforms. Of course, this is a small installation, so they will allow themselves to show you two other projects exported from our program. So first, which I prepared for you, I have three projects for you. First is the heating installation with radiators from our programs exported to Ifc file. It's a big one. It's a large building containing an installation with heaters, as I remember. Yes, that's from our program, as you can see. It's the heaters from the InstalSystem 5. Okay. We can see what the structure of such a file looks like. As you can see, we have mapping, IFC, for example, flow, meter, valve. We have the name and description. In the next publications, we prepared the full parameterization of the installation. Now we have the because I exported this program based on Polish version, now I have the name and description in Polish, but remember that this name and description, like type, for example, like size and others, are based on your language version. So if you work on, for example, English version and exported this IFC file, all the name and description you have based on your language, okay, package language. Maybe I close this one and open the next project. It's the as I remember, that's the flat station and tap water installation. So give me a moment. Yes, reading file, it's the flat station and tap water. As you can see, it's it's only, as I can see, it's only tap water installation. So it's export from InstalSystem 5. Okay, and the last project, it's it's the biggest one. It's the project that includes the installation of loops and panels along with the entire installation layout. This is a really big project that has been prepared for the Chinese market. So you can see what projects our latest version of the software allows to design the new generation. Please wait a moment. That's a full installation with loops and panels. Yes, maybe 3 seconds. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's installation from InstalSystem 5. As you can see, that's the loops and some others equipment. All these installations was prepared in InstalSystem 5. As you can see, here we have the loops. You can click on this. It's the, you have the covering and some others. Okay, so as you can see, this kind of very big installation with panels you can create in InstalSystem 5, and based on it, you can export this installation to IFC 4 format, and you can load this project, for example, to Archicad, to Revit, or other BIM platform. Maybe we come back to our project. This is this one, because now we move to the last section of our webinar, because we want to simulate a change that may come from an architect. Maybe I close this one because I have prepared some example for you how to work with the change. Okay, now let's simulate a change that may come from an architect. Please see, I have the same design that I will open where there is a slight change. In this change there are no walls in this place, so I open this project in BIM Vision. We need to wait a moment. Okay, I go to the Ifc structure and unchecked these two checkbox. Okay, and as you can see there are no walls in this place. In our previous project these walls were at this point, and how to work with it. So now I will open our design installation together with the model, with the last model. So to be sure that this model is different, I go to underlay scope and hide these two, and okay, and as you can see this is this difference. Okay, such a model within the project can be replaced any number of times. So we can use the project browser and just simply unhide data table. Okay, check again and just delete this project and use the import Ifc model again. Okay, I open the same one like in BIM Vision, architecture change. There is this change. At this point we have an updated Ifc model. Let us remember that our building structure is still in previous condition. The fact that enable that modification of the structure, we can easily and quickly adjust our walls to make such a change. If the change are bigger, we can add some fragments or interpret them in stages. Here I will also change the length of this wall because I divided this room into two separated. So how to work with them? Go to construction and simply delete this wall and the second one. Change the shape of this thickness 0 wall to the opposite side. Okay. At this point, after my modification, the layout of my loops installation and heating zones should be modified. It's enough to adjust the shape of the zone using the hot points. So when I go to floor and wall heating and cooling systems, just click on this, move the hot points, okay, and make the same with this one. It's very easy and quick. Okay. Perfect. The pipe fit route, which is adapted to the dynamic change in BIM world, can save a large amount of time. This is a new element that significantly reduces the cost of our changes to the project. It's enough to perform a full calculation later to the project is quickly adapted to the changes that have been made in this project. So just make the full calculation. Okay, and maybe I check the loops. I see that I don't have the loops on this one. Pipe spacing. Okay, it's very easy solution. Probably just grab this out to the other side, okay, and make calculation again. Yeah, of course, that's all for this project. So when you go to the 3D view, and as you can see, we make this change for this project, and then you can again go to the printout, okay, and just export this file one again. Okay, I quickly change to the BIM vision, and after this operation, of course, I can add files. That's my first model. And as you can see, that's the new model, Ifc model on new Ifc changed model of architecture. Okay, of course I can click on them, inventory, uncheck this checkbox. Okay, it's very simple and quick. At the same time, but one designer designed, for example, a heating or cooling installation, and the other a water supply system, and they cannot overwrite one file at the same time. They can exchange such a files and way to coordinate with each other in order to for example, avoid collisions. On the other hand, the native installation file is owned by the designer, who is responsible for the design and changes. Finally, let me show you the development version of our software. This is this one, okay. I want to show you because in the next publication you will be able to access the entire installation export interface with the division into individual levels and installation types, elements, layers. This shows in the context of simultaneous cooperation on one project, what I mentioned earlier. So remember that it's only our internal version of software. Okay. Okay, for this moment, I think that's all. I hope you see this kind of revolution. Maybe I open the our pulpit. Okay. 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 For this moment, I think that's all. I hope that you can see this this revolution. This revolution. Check the questions. Okay. I hope that you can see this revolution and what we have prepared for you as part of the new publication number 20. I invite you to the wide use of our products also in the context of our new revolutionary BIM models. And now we start our question and answer section, and we will see what questions you asked during our webinar and which questions were selected by Marcin Krzyżanowski. This question will now appear on the screen. If I'm not able to answer a certain question or they required a specific answer, I will answer them with Martin by email. Okay, as I can see, I have one question from Enrico. So what kind of information can I see on the Ifc models and of the plumbing systems? For now, maybe I open the our project, maybe this one. Okay, we have the project from the Ifc with the tap water installation. Now in publication number 20, Enrico, is the generic model with all geometric, okay, with all pipes, with all equipment from the program, with all batteries, with all valves. Unfortunately, for now we cannot export the fittings because we do not generate the fittings in InstalSystem 5 package, but I think that it will be the next feature in our program. So now we export all the installation without the fittings and without the installation. Okay, the rest are this kind of elements like the stories, for example, the pipe segments, the valves, and so on. After this webinar, of course, I can send you some examples of our project, Enrico. So thank you for this question. I'm checking again the question and answer section. Okay. I think that we have only one question for now. I think that Martin answered the rest of the question for today's webinar. So going slowly to the final of our meeting. Thank you for your participation, of course. All questions and so much interest. I hope that there will be more and more of us in the next meetings. I also hope that what we have prepared for you as part of publication 20 is a big satisfaction. For my part, that's all for today. On behalf of InstalSystem and InstalSoft team and Martin, thank you for your participation. Please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe. And for this is all. Have a good weekend and goodbye. Thank you very much.